I'm going to give you 10 storytelling structures that you can use in your YouTube video, from the most known and easiest to use to the most advanced that will set your video apart from everyone else. With the first one being the 3-act structure. This is the most known because this is a classical framework that is used in film, plays, novels, and it is divided, as you see, on 3 acts: the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. The idea of the setup is just you lay the foundation. Then with the confrontation, this is about the rising action, the stakes that are getting higher and higher, which lead you to the climax, the most intense part of the story. And then you have the falling action, where things start to resolve. So mainly here, this is what I did in most of my videos, where the setup, you introduce the topic with the hook, the introduction. Then you dive into the confrontation, the core concept, the main content of the video, where you lay the challenges, the obstacle, and the misunderstandings that generally people have about the subject, which will lead to the climax, the most important information that people need to understand. And finally, you have the falling action, where you synthesize everything you've talked about. The main pros of this is very familiar storytelling structure that make even complex topic easier to follow. Moving on, the hero's journey. This one is a little bit particular compared to all the storytelling structures that we are going to see, because it's more about the transformation, the journey you're entering when you are doing something. This storytelling structure is mainly used for vlogs or for you to explain something that happened to you, the transformation you had, a goal you wanted to achieve, and so you went after it. You encounter some challenging along the way, and you overcome them and reach a new state, a state of transformation and achievement. So this is really what it is. I have put a link, as you can see, where you can go and see in detail what are each of those steps. But if truly you want to apply this in your own videos, what you can do is you start by sharing a story about yourself and the struggles that are related to the topic you are trying to teach. Then you are going to explain how you or the viewer can overcome those obstacles and guiding them through the learning process step by step. And then the return, the new world, you show how mastery of those concepts will transform them into a better version of themselves, a better understanding and increase in skills, and emphasize the point of achievement and accomplishment that they are going to get out of it. Next, the Freytag pyramid. So this one is a derivation of the 3-act structure in the way I understand it. Mainly because you have still what is like the setup that we had earlier, but now it's called exposition. Then you have an inciting incident, which is going to push the character into the rising action, into the confrontation previously explained. Then you have the climax and the falling action, followed by the resolution, which is a flat state where things are getting back to normal. And what we can see here, the main point is we have a balance between the rising action and the falling action. The climax is in between, where on the 3-act structure, you first move up, and the confrontation is the main part of the story. Then you have a rapid falling action and resolution. Here, you can see that this is more or less balanced. This allows you to get faster to the point of what you are trying to explain, not spending too much time on the stakes or the issue or struggle, and spending a little bit more time on explaining the concept that might be a little bit complex to understand. So mainly you have 5 parts, as I said: the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution, which you can use as the main part of your script. Next, the in media res, which is straightforward. You get rid of the intro of the exposition. We don't need that. We dive deep into the action right away. The confrontation, the rising action, and the stakes directly from the beginning, and we keep on going higher and higher and higher directly until the climax. And as you see, the falling action is pretty rapid, and then you have the denouement, which is the final part, which is linked to the resolution. This is mainly the same. You see that the end of this is mainly the same thing as the 3-act structure. That's why the 3-act structure is the most known, because actually we are seeing it in almost every other structure. But there is some slight difference. Here, the main difference from the 3-act is just that we jump right into the action right away. We don't waste time. I would even go as far as to say, if you remember in the last video, I said the structure of each point starts with a hook. Well, you can directly start with that. This is the hook of your first point, and then the context, the punchline, and the explanation as your first point, at the beginning of the video, then you move on to the next point, the next point, the next point, and reach the climax of the most important information. Then you have the follow action, where you can give a little bit more detail, a little bit more information, or even just talking about call to action or what videos they should watch next. Then the next one is pretty much like the one we just saw, the Fichte curve. I don't know why they have those names, they are unpronounceable. This is the same idea. You jump right into the action, then you have a peak at the climax, and then deep down into the resolution. This is a modern structure that skips over long explanation and jump right straight into the rising action. Conflict intensifies through a series of mini conflicts and crises that build towards the climax, where you should have the most valuable and insightful information of the entire video. But as you can see, a lot of that is pretty much the same thing over and over. It just has very slight difference here and there, but that's why we are going to move forward with more and more complex that are even more subtle things. And the difference that make a great video from an average video is actually those subtle things. So understanding them is actually what is going to set your video apart and make you a great content creator. Next, the 4-part structure. I'm not going to pronounce it because it is absolutely unpronounceable. This is a Japanese and Chinese storytelling structure. You don't just fall, you twist. And this is what I like about this one. This is just the idea of twist. Pretty much the rest, as you can see, is pretty much the same as the storytelling structure on 3 acts. But where things are a little bit different here is instead of just after the climax dropping down and slowly moving towards the resolution and denouement, you introduce a twist, a surprising or new perspective that will change how the viewers think about the subject. This is about over-delivering. You add something more. They've reached the climax, they thought they have got everything, yet not. They have still something else, something that makes them want to watch absolutely until the end. Because this is the key issue I had with the previous one is because they have a slow descending falling action. I mean, people can get bored and just click off your video, and if you want to have people watching all the way until the end, adding a twist like this, it might be the solution. So as usual in the introduction, you introduce the topic, then you expand the idea, presenting the core content without relying necessarily on crisis or conflicts. The twist, as I said, is introducing a new perspective, something surprise that will change the way people think about the subject, about the topic. Next, we have the episodic structure. This one is a little bit particular because this is not about one video specifically. This is about a series of videos. And I'm not sure this is exactly what they had in mind, but the way I like to think of it is thinking about a series of videos as being a story structure on itself. So you have, for instance, you have 10 videos, maybe the first 2, if we take the 3-act structure, will be the setup. So you have first 2 videos which are about the setup, which each one have their own storytelling structure. So you link them together. Then you have the rising action and so on. This is mainly what they are doing in TV show. They have this overarching structure about the whole TV show, and then each episode alone have their own structure. So this is how you stack them together. I believe this is the most powerful thing that you can do in your YouTube video. You build videos by block of stories, block of information about a related topic, and you try to convey the information in a specific order like this. That way, first of all, the people that are watching this video series through will keep being entertained and want to watch it through. But also, you have a video series, meaning if someone arrives at one of the videos, they will think, oh, I want to know what's come before, I want to know the full story. And so I believe this is one of the most powerful things, instead of just posting videos here and there that are completely unrelated, or they are but very distant, there is not a complete coherence. And that's why I'm doing on this channel a video series to walk through each and every step that you need to make in order to become a great content creator. And this is my overarching. I haven't thought about it exactly, I'm still figuring things out. I believe that now we are on the rising action. We will reach the climax, I think, a very long time. my goal is to make 100 videos, so we will take a lot of time to get there. Anyway, I believe this is a very powerful structure when you seek about your content on a longer time scale. So keep that in mind. Next is about the 7-point structure. And when I think about it, I think this is a way to make it easier for ourselves. For instance, you can just use the 7-point as your 7-point of your script and just have a little paragraph or two for each of those points. That's it. And each of those points follows the structure that I've told you in the last video about audience retention, how to explain topic, where you have the hook, context, punchline, and explanation. And you just do that for each point. So that's not the most entertaining, I feel, but that's the easiest to use. So the hook, as you know, we grab attention with a question, a fact, a statement that hook people into the video. Then the plot point 1 is about the call to action. You clarify what people are going to get in the video, what they will learn and gain from it. Then you have the pinch point 1. I have to say, you introduce a challenge or an obstacle that they might face. So you have the high point, what they will gain. Then directly you start with a low point, something that is painful and that they will struggle with, that they are struggling with maybe. Then you relieve the pain, because nobody wants to be told the pain without having the solution in front. So directly we have the midpoint where we start providing solution and insight on how they can succeed, how they can overcome those obstacles. But immediately after that, we say that there is other obstacle, other challenging, which lead us to the pinch point 2, where, okay, there is a solution, but we are not there yet, there is more. Because you see those issues, you see those problems. You can even go further and be relatable by just sharing the fact that you know how it feels, this is tough, that something like that. You see, just to really make people feel the pain, become aware, become problem aware. If you want people to watch, you need to make them care about the subject, and this is exactly what we are doing here. We are bringing awareness and then delivering solution. Bringing awareness and delivering solution. I will go even as far to say that you can probably have multiple points and then the resolution you conclude with actionable steps that they can take in order to succeed. Next, this is the non-linear structure. We start entering into the tough one. This one, you know it, but you probably never thought of it that way. This is when the story moves forward and then it goes back. Like a flashback, a flash memory. The story is told out of chronological order, often using flashback, flash forward, and parallel timelines. This structure challenges the audience to piece all the things together. So this one might be a little bit more difficult to apply in YouTube video, yet I think it's still possible. Where you have your main story, the main flow of the video, but maybe for the low point or the reward, you can use flashback talking about you, what you did, or maybe projecting people into what they might have. This is how you can, I believe, introduce that. And also it's going to be very related to the next story structure, which is the nesting and frame narrative. This one, I didn't find any visual, I'm really sorry. This is about having stories within stories. It's really connected to the one we just seen. So you have subplot and tangent. I'm going to try to explain this, but the idea is you have a main story which can be the video itself. What you have is you have sub-stories. That can be a good YouTuber that is doing that very well, is Film Boot. The example I have in mind is he's going outside, so he's explaining the subject of the video, yet because he's outside pretending that he's following by someone, he's scared. So he tried to explain the video, but yet there is something happening in the background, or maybe this is an animal that is going to attack him. And so in this case, that just doesn't add to the explanation, that just makes the video more interesting, more entertaining. But on the other side, you can also have, you are using, for instance, something happened to you, so you are using the hero's journey as your main storyline to explain what happened. Yet you're building some sub-stories, some sub-point to give people a lesson of what you've learned through this journey. This is how subplot works, or tangent. And so I have put a link where you have a lot of infographics that you can see to better understand this idea. It was very interesting. You can also, as I said, use the non-linear structure as your subplot, as your nested frame inside your own story, going back. Because you can have the main part of your video where you're talking, but have B-roll come on top to explain, to show what happened before, after. This is, I think, a very interesting way to use it. Whew, that was a lot. But yeah, that's basically the 10 storytelling structures that you will ever need. I don't believe there is more, but that's a lot. That's way too much. So I want to do something first to explain, because here you can see, after thinking back on all those storytelling structure, I realized that actually the framework I gave you about the explanation of point was not really good. There was a misalignment. See, here you can see I said hook, context, punchline, and concept. But previously, actually, the concept went before the punchline, and that's what I realized. The punchline is the climax. And so if you want your point to get across, you want to have this punchline, which is about the climax, where the context is going to be the rising action, where you deliver all the information and the challenging and obstacle in the form of story or analogy or gamified example. After that, you have the falling action, which is about mainly explaining. And I believe that was good to come back on it, because it gives you a clear example of how all of what we just saw, all of those story structure could apply in each and every single one of your point. And this structure is actually also the structure that you can use across your whole video. So coming next, that's great. We have a lot of storytelling structure, but I'm not happy with that. I don't want to have to choose all the time. So what I'm going to do, we are going to come back on those structures, but we are going to compress them all into a single framework. One framework to rule them all. So thanks you for watching, and go watch the next video.